Aloha, oi, aloha, oi, e ke ona no, I kalipo. I will not bite you, for you may come to life again. I shall open my mouth wide enough for you to walk in. So this is the time when I shall kill you. You shall die. Nothing will save you. Just as Punia walked into the Shark King Kalakeale's mouth so he could be swallowed whole and lose any chance of recovering, Hawaii's monarch fell easily into the hands of the United States government. Consequently, the kingdom of Hawaii has died. Very little remains. The unjust overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy by American sugarcane plantation owners, with the assistance of American minister John L. Stevens, against the will of the Hawaiian people, changed the entire Hawaiian economy, government, and way of life, and caused the near-complete loss of native Hawaiian culture. A beautiful country in the very center of the Pacific, the Hawaiian Islands had been discovered by the British explorer Captain James Cook in 1778, who named them the Sandwich Islands after the 4th Earl of Sandwich. Before his death at the hands of revolting Hawaiians, however, he met a young chief named Kamehameha, who, inspired by the explorer, later conquered the Hawaiian Islands, uniting the archipelago. It was his descendants that would call themselves the Ali'i Mo'i, or Kings of Hawaii. King Kamehameha III, in an attempt to bring equality among the Hawaiian people, had made land available for purchase in the year 1850. However, his plan backfired, putting the land instead into the hands of the power-hungry sons of the missionaries, who found more profit in sugar than in saving souls. It was in this growing society of foreigners from all over the world that Lili'uokalani became princess. The heirs of the Kamehameha line had died out with King Kamehameha V, and her brother, Kalakaua, had been placed on the throne through an almost brutal battle against the widow of Kamehameha IV, Emma Rook. The race was close, with two sides: the rich sugar plantation owners supporting Kalakaua, a king they could manipulate, or Emma, a queen promising more power to the Hawaiian people and less to the foreign sugar kings. The victory of Kalakaua foreshadowed the continuing increase of American influence in the islands. Throughout his rule, his lavish spending to pay for the elegant Iolani Palace and a trip around the world would lose huge tracts of crown lands to the plantation owners, own them massive amounts of the crown's money, and would lose the extremely valuable Pearl Harbor to the United States in exchange for Hawaiian sugar to enter the American markets without extra taxes. This deal for sugar, though, would not benefit the Hawaiian people at all. On June 30th, 1887, Kalakaua was forced to sign away most of his power as king to a document that would later come to be known as the Bayonet Constitution, because of the threats of bloodshed from those encouraging it. In 1891, Kalakaua passed away in San Francisco at the age of 55, leaving his sister Lili'u to fix all of the mistakes he had made. Immediately upon ascending the throne on January 29th, Lili'u began to receive various petitions from the Hawaiian people demanding that a new constitution be put in place to restore the rights that had been taken from them by the Bayonet Constitution. Believing that the right to grant a constitution to the nation has been, since the very first one was granted, a prerogative of the Hawaiian sovereigns, she started working on a new one right away, confident that her cabinet would support it. After all, she had chosen her cabinet herself after her brother's death. It was not to be, however. While she was writing the new constitution, Lauren A. Thurston, the head of the Annexation Club, was communicating with the United States government about the possibility of an overthrow of the Queen, receiving the response of, You will find an exceedingly sympathetic administration here, from President Benjamin Harrison. Ignorant of the secret plans of the Annexation Club, Lili'uokalani prepared to announce the new constitution on the morning of January 14th, 1893. Unthinkably, Lili'uokalani's cabinet had refused to allow the constitution. She had been betrayed. She argued with them again and again before finally giving in. She went out to the waiting crowds and declared that she had been ready to declare a new constitution, but had decided to wait a bit more, as her ministers advised. Despite Lili'u's failure, the Annexation Club was furious that she would even attempt such a move. They called it an attempted coup d'etat. While the Hawaiian people stood outside the palace in peaceful support of the Queen, the annexationists' plan was set into action. Lauren Thurston asked American Minister to Hawaii, John L. Stevens, to order the soldiers of the USS Boston, anchored in the Honolulu harbor, to assist them with the overthrow, using the danger of public safety as an excuse. Stevens granted it. On January 16th, over 150 fully armed U.S. troops marched into Honolulu on an otherwise peaceful day. Most followed Lauren Thurston straight to Iolani Palace, where he demanded that Lili'u yield her throne to the declared provisional government. The next day she did, stating, "To avoid any collision of armed forces and perhaps loss of life, I do, under this protest and impelled by said forces, yield my authority until such time as the government of the United States shall, upon the facts being presented to it, undo the action of his representative, and reinstate me in the authority which I claim as the constitutional sovereign of the Hawaiian Islands." The annexationists had won. A Republic of Hawaii was formed, with Sanford Dole as its president. Lili'u had faith that the United States would return her to power. Many people supported her. One article in New York's Sun newspaper stated, "We trust that at no distant day Hawaii will be under the Stars and Stripes." Lili'u's niece Kaiulani, whom she had named as her heir, and one of her most trusted cabinet members, the Hawaiian lawyer, legislator, teacher, publisher, and painter, Joseph Nauahi, went to Washington, D.C. with the petitions of the Hawaiian people. President Cleveland sympathized with the monarchy, declaring that the overthrow was not ordered by the U.S. He ordered the Queen be reinstated. When this was given, though, the provincial government refused. The United States did little to force them. Just as the annexationists had thought, many U.S. senators disagreed with Cleveland's decision to try to reinstate the monarchy. In the New York Tribune, Judge Holman argued, "Stevens may have been in the wrong, but it is the sense of Congress that there should be no interference to secure the reestablishment of the monarchy in Hawaii." Many agreed with him. While Congress disagreed over whether it was right to finish what John L. Stevens had started, the Republic of Hawaii had imprisoned Lili'uokalani and her supporters. And so the Hawaiian monarchy would never return. The overthrow of January 16th, 1893, though quiet, would tear away any hope of Hawaii's sovereignty. Due to the Spanish-American War, the United States under President McKinley would officially annex Hawaii on August 12, 1898. Kaiulani, the young princess, died a year later. Many believe she died from grief over the death of her country. Hawaii would remain a U.S. territory until it officially joined the Union as the 50th state in 1959. Lydia Lili'uokalani Wewehi Kamaka'eha, the last ali'i of Hawaii, who stubbornly stood in the way of American imperialism for the sake of her people, died in 1917 at the age of 79. With her died any last spirit of a free Hawaii.